I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but God hears your prayers. God hears your cries. And God is attentive to a genuine heart. I want to share my testimony, and I feel like God has been tugging at my heart to really start sharing what He's done in my life in hopes that this will encourage or motivate someone on their journey, whether or not they have accepted Christ into their lives. So, a little backstory on my life. I wasn't raised in a Christian household. I've been through a lot of things, but I just want to touch on a few things that are relevant to what I want to get to. So, this is a testimony on how powerful prayer is, how powerful a genuine cry out to God truly is. And this is something that the devil doesn't want you to do because he knows the power of prayer and he knows the power of a genuine, repentant heart. So, little backstory. I grew up not having my dad in my life. My mom was a single mom. She worked a lot. She worked long hours. I grew up with my two older siblings, and I don't want to speak for them, but I know that in a lot of ways we all searched for love in different ways, because we didn't have present parents in our lives. We didn't have love, we didn't have affection, we didn't have attention. We all kind of felt like we had to figure it out on our own. This led to a lot of strongholds and a lot of addictions in different ways. For me, one of the first things that really grabbed a hold of me was porn. So at 8 years old, I became very fixated on porn. It grew to be an obsession. Like, I was exposed to it, and then it was kind of like a thrill because I was keeping it from everyone and nobody knew. It filled a void for a while. It was like a temporary high, and I kept going back to it. So at 8 years old, I'm addicted to porn, which later on made me really desire a relationship. So I thought, these people, I'm watching these people have intercourse, and I thought that it was real. I thought that, in that time of my life, like, my mind was still innocent. So I thought that these people really love each other. Like, I want that. I want to experience that in my life. And so at 11 years old, I snuck out for the first time. I was with a cousin, and she was gonna go like meet with her boyfriend at the time, and her boyfriend had a brother. Mind you, my cousin she is about 5 years older than me, I think. So of course the guys are older. So I was excited to sneak out for the first time, and I was already hiding the porn, so I felt like that was nothing. So we leave. They're drinking. I get offered my first beer, and I didn't want to seem like I was not gonna partake because I was younger than them, so I wanted to fit in. So I drank the beer and I chug it, and it was disgusting. And then they passed the blunt, and I had no idea how to smoke. I had never even heard of like a blunt or what it was or anything. Um, but I smoked, and it was the most horrible thing. Um, I just remember feeling very nauseous and everything started spinning around. I was left with this guy, and he really seemed genuine. Like he really wanted to like take care of me and like make sure that I was feeling okay. And so he ends up like taking advantage of me. And ever since then, I thought that that was a form of love. I thought that it was normal. Um, so that kind of fueled the desire. And, you know, as time went on, I wanted to still experience, you know, having a relationship and having someone that truly loved me. So at 13, I meet a guy, and you know, he was the first person that truly like wanted to be in a relationship with me. I was very young at the time, so um I hadn't really experienced much. So we started, you know, dating, and we started going out to clubs. So we started going out, um, and in being in that environment, like the club environment, a lot of drugs are very, like it's very common to, you know, do cocaine or to smoke weed or do pills or whatever. So with him, I was exposed to cocaine for the first time, and it really got a hold of me quick. So I started seeing like this pattern of like um, being quickly impacted by something and it turning into an extreme obsession. So cocaine was one of those things for me, which I I wanted to constantly experience that high. The porn wasn't doing it anymore. So I became heavily dependent on cocaine. Um, of course, the alcohol was also intertwined in all of this. And my life just really started to decline very fast. At 21, I experienced something that truly marked my life. So all I remember was it was a Sunday night. I was with a friend, and we had went out the night before. So we were still kind of hungover, we were still recuperating, and all of a sudden she tells me, "Oh, you know, so and so messaged me and they're inviting us out. They'll pay for everything. Like, let's go. And something inside of me, I mean, we had just went out the night before and I was still hungover, so I didn't really want to go out, but because she was my friend, like I wanted to, I guess, please her. So I went along with it. We were at her house, so I didn't have any clothes. And so I told her, I'll go, but I need shoes. I need heels or something to wear. And she's like, oh, I have something to wear. But I was like, I need shoes. Like, what am I going to wear with that? Your shoes don't fit me. So take me to my house and we'll go get some shoes and we'll go. So she lived about a house away from where I lived. So not a house, a street. Like, she lived on this street and then there was a street here and I lived on this street. So there was a street dividing our houses. She didn't want to tell her parents that she was gonna leave because we had just went out the night before. So we go outside and she's like, they blocked me in. So somebody parked behind her and she couldn't get out. So she's like, let's just go walking. Like, you know, kind of like, what's the worst that can happen? I wasn't really comfortable with that because it was very late. But once again, I wanted to please her. So I was like, okay, fine. We started walking out. She's locking up her gate and I'm just waiting for her. All of a sudden, I see this car race down the street and they stopped at the stop sign. Something inside of me started feeling like there's something bad is gonna happen. Like, something's about to happen. So something within me just told me, like, try and remember the license plate. But I was also focused on my friend, focused on that. I didn't know what to do. I was like, it was like an inner battle within me. So I just remembered JBL. And then I turned back to her and I'm like, what's wrong? You know, she was like having a hard time like locking up the gate. And she finally locks it. She walks. And then I'm like, that car has been there for a while. And she like doesn't mind it or whatever. And the car ends up leaving. And I'm kind of like, okay, like the car left. As soon as we walked up to the stop sign, the car ends up turning around, stops at the stop sign. A guy with a ski mask came out. He pulls a gun out on us and tells us, you need to get in the car right now. My whole life flashed before me. Like, I could not believe that I was literally right in front of my street, that I could literally run and, you know, in a couple minutes I would be home. But I couldn't. I was stuck. And it's like I froze in that moment. And he knew that I was thinking about that because he told me, like, don't even think about running. Like, you need to get in the car right now or I'm going to kill both of you. And when he said that, I just thought, like, if he kills me, I'm going to be laid out on the street. What if, you know, my stepdad gets out of, you know, the house, or my brother, and when they drive out, they see my dead body just laying there. Like, how traumatic is that going to be for them? And I thought, well, if he kills me and, we're somewhere else, like, it'll take them time to find my body. So I decided, like, okay, I'm not gonna fight this. We get in the car. They took our phones away. They blindfolded us. And in that moment, something within me knew to call out to God. I had no context of God. I hadn't prayed in my life. I didn't know God personally. I literally knew nothing about God. Didn't want him in my life. Never thought of him. Didn't have any desire of him. But in that moment, something within me knew to call out to God. And I didn't have a fancy prayer. All I could say is, God, help me. God, help me. Please help me. Help me. Help me. God, please. And that's all I kept saying in my mind. I just kept repeating this over and over and over again. And then I started bargaining with him. Like, I haven't lived my life yet. I haven't gotten married yet. I haven't had kids yet. Like, I want to experience that. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Please help me. Help us. Please, please, please. And I was begging God. And for the glory of God, we still had to pass through that night. But I remember, and this is something that I had blocked out of my mind, but as time passed and, as God started revealing things to me from my past, I remembered that there was a guy, we had our eyes covered the whole time, but there was a moment where somebody different stepped in the room. And when he stepped in the room, he started telling these guys, like, what have you done? You know how bad this is? Like, do you know what you're doing? Like, the boss is going to be so mad at you. Like, you better fix this right now. And like, he was opening their eyes, like, you have to let them go. And I know that God heard my prayer. Even though it was the simplest prayer and I didn't have a lot of words to express, my heart was inclined to God. I was truly in a moment of life or death. And I'm not saying that you have to be in this situation to cry out to God, because you could be in any situation, small or big. You could feel so far away from God. You could have no context of who God is. Maybe not even a desire to truly serve him and to truly live for him, and not understand what that means. But I want to let you know that God hears your prayers when it comes from a true and honest place. When your heart is aligned to his, he hears those prayers. And as time went on, I started to truly see how bound I was, how imprisoned I was by the porn addiction, by the alcoholism, by the cocaine, by the all of these things that I had tried to fill a void within me. I started to notice how much control they had over my life and how I needed freedom. And even though in that moment I didn't understand what having a relationship with God was, or I didn't see myself even coming out of that situation, God intervened in my life that day. When I said, God, please help me, that was a door opened up so that God could come into my life, so that Jesus Christ could come into my life and really fight the battle that I wasn't seeing. And whatever your situation is, whatever you have been keeping to yourself and not entrusting God to take control of this situation, I want to tell you that it's safe to put all of your trust in God. It's safe to truly express what's on your heart, because I feel like God moves the most when we are genuinely seeking Him, when we're genuinely opening our hearts to Him and being vulnerable and exposing ourselves in front of Him, because He knows everything. He knows all of your thoughts. He knows your innermost desires. He knows everything that's within you. So why not own up to that? Like, why not bring everything in front of Him if He already knows it anyway? And so if you've been feeling far away from God, if you've been feeling unworthy, if you've been feeling like God's not going to listen to a person like me, or God can't move in my life because I've done XYZ, or I'm not worthy of His love, I'm not worthy of Him, of even having Him in my life, or I'm just too far gone. I've been there. And this is only a part of my testimony and what I've been through, but I was a porn addict, I was an alcoholic, I was a coke addict. Like, my life revolved around me and feeding myself of whatever I wanted at the time. Like, I lived a self-centered life. My life was not even my own. My life was dictated by my addictions. I couldn't live, breathe, or sleep without thinking about these addictions. And so if God had mercy on me, if God heard my prayer and that started God's work in my life, why not cry out to God? And I encourage you to take your prayers and take them to God, whatever that is. Whether you have just 2 words to say or 20, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how articulate you are with your words. It doesn't matter if you know the Bible from Genesis to Apocalypse. Like, it doesn't matter. All God wants is your genuine heart, a genuine repentance to just acknowledge, like, God, you're the only one that can help me in this moment. And it's crazy to even think about, like, in that moment, I knew that only God could help me. And it led to the breakthrough of letting go of the porn addiction, because after being abused, it really opened my eyes to see porn in such a different way, because I was viewing it from a lustful perspective. So I was viewing it with eyes of desire. But once I went through that abuse, it was like I started to see it for what it truly was. I started to see what it was doing to me. And I'm not going to say that, oh, I'm thankful that I was kidnapped, but I am going to say I'm grateful that it led to the breaking of that addiction on my life. And if God can do it for me, God can do it for you. So I don't know who needed to hear this, but God hears your prayers. And wherever you are in your journey, just know that God loves you. God sees you. Jesus Christ died for you. Jesus died. He gave his life for you, for your freedom. That addiction that was broken off of me, that was only by the breaking of Jesus. Like, he first suffered so that I could experience that freedom. It's only by his sacrifice. It's only by his shedding of his blood for us that we can be free. And so I just want to encourage you today, if you are going through something, comment down below. I'm happy to intercede or pray for you if you need to. If you want to comment on something that you're going through, feel free to do so. I hope that this blessed you, and I just want you to remember, God hears your prayers. God bless.